Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the full council September meeting. Start off with apologies and absence, students.
Got apologies in case of the month, got family commitment. Thanks everyone. Oh, don't worry.
It's on holidays somewhere. Any declarations of interest which are on for tonight's agenda? John, Captain declare interest in the festival. Okay, thank you. I suppose I should declare an interest in the local speedway site because I've been involved in it some years ago. I'm still involved in speedway. So that's my declaration of interest on. Evacuation procedure. Doors behind me. Door across there. To that evacuate.
We'll have a practice one day.
Please do not use the lift if you have to evacuate. Okay, presentation from Bob Faulkner, British Cycle
Recycling.
representative, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't work for British Cycling, but I'm a volunteer working with them. So a long sort of career in business and industry, but that's another story. So yeah, thank you for giving me the time. We'll be about 15 minutes or so. I'm assuming some of you might have had a chance to glance through the paper, but some of you may not have had the opportunity. So I'll take you through that, give you the key points. There's a few bullet points here. I'm not going to go through them in detail because I think you get a bit tired with that, but I'll pick out the key highlights that are relevant. So those of you who were here 3 months ago, thereabouts, what I sort of presented was what are the options for the facility you've got here? You know, what can you do with it? And turn it back into use, because we felt fundamentally it's a good facility. It was well built. And from a cycling point of view, this goes wider than Cycle Speedway. This is about youngsters, getting them active, getting them on bicycles or roller skates or three-wheelers or wheelchair racing or whatever it happens to be. So British Cycling is all about, as it says there, bringing the joy of cycling to everyone, not just about racing, not just about half a dozen, you know, if you like, young lads tearing around the track, as it used to be. So quite a different approach. So we talked about all that, and I gave you some examples of what was going on elsewhere, very successfully, actually, in many places. So when we've looked around and said, where are the tracks in the UK that we could help resurrect or help bring back to life? You know, this one stood out as number one. A, because it looked like it was well built, and B, it's an area of significant population density that you would just expect, you know, to be enough resources. And it's a cycling city, or Bristol is a cycling city. So that's the reason why. What we agreed, and with your support, we, British Cycling, commissioned a short report to look at the track that we've got, look at the way we want to take the sport in the broadest sense, and test out the feasibility and the cost of making that happen. So that report's been done by a company called Velo Solutions UK, who happen to be based here in Bristol, although their headquarters globally is in Switzerland. But they're probably the company worldwide, preferred supplier to British Cycling, and they build velodromes, pump tracks, mountain bike tracks. This is their business, and this is what they do on a worldwide basis. So they know what they're talking about, and I've been quite impressed by what they've done. So if I just start to take you through this, the first thing to point out is what's the vision? And the vision is to create something called a MUST, the term we're using. It's a multi-use short track. So it's not just a cycle speedway track, can be and will be, but it's a multi-use short track. So, as I said, roller skating, model car racing, which a lot of people like to do, could be used for. The track as it stands, and these traditional shale tracks can't do that. They can't handle the disturbance. They're not robust enough. So we want to create a multi-use short track, wide range of activities, and it has to be low maintenance. And a shale track requires a lot of maintenance and tends to get used a couple of times a week. So it's quite a different concept. Several times a day and readily, this is our spec, left ready in the same condition afterwards. Could be used for junior running events. And we know that children do go out on that track. I think Leslie or somebody was telling me they do go down there, they do run around it. So we're looking at saying, can we make it for running events? 4 lanes on the track, painted on the track, with a non-slip coating. So, and the way we thought it could work, and somebody asked me this question the last time, how would we charge for it? What would we charge? And I know there's a bit of a history there that somebody described to me. But the concept is that maybe clubs could book it and have exclusive use for a period, an hour or 2 hours, whatever it is. But the rest of the time, just open to the public and to schools and to kids to use as they see fit. So that was the fee. That was the view, or that was the spec. So the first thing they did, well, obviously they took some aerial photographs of the existing track, but you can look out the window and that's what you would see. So they did a lot of drone shots of that, first of all. But that's what you've got. And obviously it's deteriorated, but it's still very clearly there. Their overview was very encouraging, actually. You know, we thought it was solid, but feedback was very encouraging. It has been constructed to British cycling guidelines. Obviously, the red shale surface, concrete edges. I won't go through all this, various heights and sizes and so forth. Meet the specification. It meets the minimum requirements. Obviously, there's been some erosion of it and so forth, but the base looks fundamentally sound. The dimensions, again, I won't bore you with statistics, but obviously measured it, checked it out. It all meets the standard sizes with a bit of banking. Red shale, aggregate base course. Don't know what a sub base is, but there's no sign of any sinkage, so it sounds like it's very sound. Concrete curves. Drainage. Gentleman was asking me about drainage. They looked at the inspection chambers. Fundamentally, they're blocked and filled with the red shale. But when I think Leslie and I were speaking with Mark some time back, the groundsman, he seemed very familiar with it and thought it just needed a bit of rodding, and the drains were there and could be recovered. So that wasn't seen as a big problem, but obviously they've concluded it needs a bit more investigation. And with the type of surface we're talking about, as you'll see, drainage becomes more important. So overall, it meets British cycling speedway guidance. They talked in the report about the signage they want around it. Some of this is the bureaucracy. I don't know much about this, but obviously there's something called DEFRA's magic map. But no problems with ecology, the environment, archaeology, no ancient bones buried there, designations, and no utilities going underneath it that risk damaging. And once again, mentioning the soakaway, and there's electric supply and there's a water supply, which is fundamental. And that often is a big part of the cost in these things, is getting these things in place. So that's all there. So the proposal is to resurface the track with asphalt, but not a conventional asphalt. It's a very fine asphalt, a bit like they use on pump tracks. So it's very smooth and might have some rubber compounding in it. So it's quite a different type of surface. And then there's a specialist coating applied that they use on velodromes, and it provides a very smooth rolling surface with 4 lanes painted onto that. You've got a little print up there with a sort of picture of what that could look like from above, just to give you a feel for that. It could be any colour you like. It could be lime green if you wanted lime green, but we sort of suggested something that's brick red with white lining. But all that can be changed. suggest just increasing the banking a bit and making it a little bit more concave in the corners. I'll show you that just to allow beginners to ride around without reduce the risk of drifting off. But fundamentally, suggestion is the layout's absolutely fine. Raise each corner slightly, 2% grading on the inside, rising to 20%. So it's not going to be like a velodrome. 20% is not that steep. That's the suggestion, and obviously that's the concept. Looking at it, there would be potentially more lines on that, where there's a start, finish, and there may be some for for when you have handicap races or a staggered start. All that would have to be sort of worked out, measured, and put in. But you can see youngsters under the age of maybe 10 using it as a running track, whereas a conventional 400-meter track, if you're that height, or even my height, that's a long way around. You're looking at it, thinking, how do I get around there? But that, and we've seen that elsewhere. Kids love to run around it, so that would add to that. And obviously, the gym equipment's in the middle there, and all that makes it a more attractive area. That's the cross section they propose for the banking. That's the top one is what it is now, which is a straight banking with red shale on the surface. This is actually got a bit of a curve and slightly more curved into the corner, but nothing particularly dramatic, but just keeps swinging people back in to the track rather than out to the outside, which is obviously a good thing. I'm not going to go through all of this, but they went through the types of material, so take away stuff they got to the right standards, use the existing subsoil to build up the levels. The visual assessment says sub-base is stable, which can be built. Type 1 crushed concrete, I guess. The surface course, this is sort of more important. So it's a single pass of 6 millimeters. I think that should be 60 millimeters actually. Yeah, asphalt's laid thick, it's 60 millimeters, compacted depth, so about that sort of depth, quite heavy, to increase the longevity of the surface and reduce any cracking. So it'll actually be slightly deeper than the average road, but a very smooth sort of surface on the top. And so on, needed, blah, blah. That's what they do. The surface coating, there's a company called Coatsol, French company, and they provide this coating for velodromes and other sports facilities. It's good stuff because it's not like the colouring on roads, which can be, if you've cycled on a road, there's a white line, it's pretty slippy. This stuff is exactly the same as the tarmac, so you're not sliding on the lines, and they can put it any colour apparently. So 4-layer acrylic coating, specifically designed for velodromes and cycling paths. Good grip, all that. So there's more details on that if anyone's interested. It gets a bit technical. Drainage. Yeah, I'd say the reserve judgment on it, but key point is, should additional drainage be required, then a couple of suckerways could be dropped in. That's not a big ask. Important is the maintenance. So key spec from our point of view was minimal maintenance. This thing should look after itself once done, and their view is it should be similar lifespan to a road, so 15 years for a road. I would imagine with just bikes and kids on it, we'd expect at least that. So this is very low maintenance and can be used all day long. Safety checks on sort of obvious things. So the crunch bit, the costs. So give you a sort of context for this. In Galashiels in the Scottish borders, they're building a new track from scratch next to Sportsfield, not too different to this area here. And building that track from scratch with a shale surface like you've got here at the moment, the spec is £260,000 just to get to where effectively you are, or you were, if you like, 10 years ago when it was first built. It's about £260,000. So you've already got that largely as a sunk cost, so this is incremental on that. Now that I've shared this with them, they're now thinking, actually, should they actually just do the little bit of extra and go for something similar? But so, now, so if you're talking for what you've got today about 250,000, but to take what you've got and make it to this higher standard, about 103,000. Of that, a significant portion is the coating, but labour, plant materials anyway. They reckon they can do it in 4 weeks, start to finish, and their sort of proviso was, assuming the end of March, otherwise prices get revised. So that's sort of where that is. I think there's some other considerations that just add on there. Say, what else? What else would you need? I mentioned the lane marking, and all that can just be decided later. There is a need for storage for cycles, keep them somewhere. It is a real pain if you're going to keep taking them away at the end of every session. And you want a range of balance bikes, 3-wheel bikes, kids' bikes, adult bikes. A nice range of bikes is important to be made available or hired out or whatever you choose to do. So some sort of, and a lot of the tracks have a container for that. Not the prettiest thing to have, but some sort of storage is sort of really needed, actually. I must admit, I did wonder that building that you've got there that's due for demolition, Leslie, right? Whether that could be recovered in some way to be used in its perfect place and size. That would be ideal to use as a storage facility. I think it hasn't got an access gate, but there probably does need to be one. But generally, it'd be left open, except for those that have booked it. And you can say, well, close the gate, you booked it for an hour, it's yours. Otherwise, you've got people wandering across the track to do a bit of gym exercise, which wouldn't be a good idea. Silly things, socket starting gate, and obviously, often they want to put in some toilet facilities or cafe, but we've got all that here, so that's great. That exists, obviously, and will be business for active nations, I guess. Future considerations, but some tracks have them, some tracks don't. Is the pits, standing area where the riders gather. It's pouring in rain, it's quite nice to have some sort of covering, gazebo type covering, but not essential. And lighting, focused lighting for the autumn winter use. But again, that's only for a couple of months really. About now, to be frank. But fundamentally, this covers everything you need. These are non-essentials. So, the next steps, well, obviously, is agreement with yourself and with actually the British Cycling Sport Commission, which, we've talked to them, they're supportive, but they say, well, what does the council think? So I've talked to the council, talked to us, and so we're in that cycle. Obviously, funding is a big fundamental question, funding of this, but I would suggest that before anybody puts a hand too deeply into the pockets and commits, we do want consultation with potential user groups. And there's cycling groups, various other groups in Bristol and in Cycle Speedway that have previously said, we'd really be interested, but tell us when you've got something worth talking about, or there's a plan. So I'm hoping after this meeting, we can go back and say, there's a plan, this is what we're looking at. In principle, the council support it. Would you use it, and how often, and what would you build up a bit more of a user case? So that, because the last thing anybody wants is a white or even a brick red white elephant, we don't want that. So, but I'm pretty confident from conversations I've had that would happen. I know even the Model Car Racing Club are interested. I agree the supplier, commission build, it could be up and running by March. So that was that, really.
Thank you. Questions from councillors first? No questions at all?
Yep. You spoke about how it met national guidelines. Does it also meet international guidelines? There's often, you spoke about it being possibly a kind of a flagship or centre of excellence.
Yeah.
We don't want to start thinking about that and then suddenly go, oh, actually, they need a straight slope rather than an incline, or vice versa.
That's a good point. It's a good point. But no, it does meet the international ones too. In fact, because the UK is biggest centre for the sport, we tend to set the guidelines anyway, and then they're adopted in Poland and elsewhere.
You say there's probably some cycle speed routines would be interested in using the track? Or
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the nearest teams today there's 2 teams in Newport, team in Poole, team in Southampton, and there was a team in Swindon actually, but that's sort of quieting down at the moment. But generally speaking, they're all very supportive because they want, more competition, and actually Bristol is a natural hub for the southwest. So this not being used is seen as a real, missing gap, and would be the natural home for competition between these groups, because obviously it's broadly at the centre of the activity. So and certainly the guys at Newport have said they would be very willing to come across to do training and coaching and whatever to help get the whole thing going. So yeah.
Sue?
I think you talked about, I didn't understand how it's going to work when the track's been booked by a club or something.
Okay.
But what the rest of the time, what sort of age group do you envisage using it?
Yeah. It can be used. Well, it depends what you use it for, of course. But if it's just running around, I mean, frankly, as soon as you can walk, almost. So, Learn to Ride, the Learn to Ride Club showed an interest. So, and I think the operator in car parks somewhere around here, I can't remember where now.
Is that for all age groups?
It's for all age groups, but obviously a lot of it's for 3-4-year-olds learning to ride a bike. So the Learn to Ride a Bike school expressed an interest. I spoke to people before getting involved in this. They would like to come along to something like this. So get the youngsters on, teach them to ride. And there's an objective, there's an objective of British sport to say they're trying to get all youngsters to learn to swim 25 metres by the time they leave school. They also want them all to learn to ride a bike. And the number of kids that can't ride a bike, particularly from disadvantaged and often ethnic communities, is quite high. And you don't take a youngster onto the roads. Car parks, you can do it. It's not great, but typically people go to the edge of the car park and get the youngsters to ring, but it's not perfect. This is safe because it's got a fence around it, you know where they are, the surface is safe, and so forth. So ideal for learning to ride. So to answer your question, my view would be, this would be for discussion, of course, that anybody from the age of 3 or so upwards can use it freely. It would just be the gates left open, use it during the day, schools can come down. If groups want to use it and have it to their exclusive use, then obviously close the gate for safety, and maybe they pay a small fee.
What I'm wondering is how it's going to work. Like any play area, say, in the evenings, or when teenagers or older kids will have access to it, and it's not going to be supervised, is it?
No.
So that's just my concern.
Well, that's the condition, that's the state just now, of course.
Yeah.
You can go down now and they do, and they just use it.
So I was thinking if it's visible from the office, is it? It's good if something. I'm just thinking, the worst case scenario. If something was happening out there, you'd have to go out and sort it out, wouldn't you? If somebody.
Yeah, it applies to all the play area, really, doesn't it? I mean,
I'm not against it.
No.
But I'm just trying to envisage, how it will be used. Thanks very much.
no, thank you.
I'll go back to Dan, John, and Alex.
Maybe a question that Leslie's better placed to answer, but around insurance, obviously there's British cycling insurances and things. Would we be covered by our general kind of insurance in our play area?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm not an insurance expert, but all of our facilities run under the same policies.
So we'll just add on to the policy.
John?
Are there currently any grants, schemes or fundings from British Cycling or anywhere like this to cover such costs if it's
The answer is
To the southwest.
yeah. That's a fundamental question. And nobody said yes and nobody said no, is the honest answer at the moment. The way British Cycling tends to work, I found, is they get money from UK Sport and from Sport England, fundamentally. And that tends to come in dollops, if you like. And then they spend it and then they get another one. At the moment, they're at a lull where they've had it and they've spent it. That's the feedback. But they will get funding again. So, yeah.
Alex?
My question was the same as Dan's. I was going to highlight our institutions.
I was actually going to ask the question, but China asked it. You didn't commit it. Come on, six.
I'm not aware of anything that's around at the moment, but. More as it was.
You can also
Yeah,
photograph.
we know we have one on.
Any other questions from councillors? Richard, want to ask some questions?
No, not really.
No, I'm all right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Where do we take it from here?
Right.
Sorry, Alex.
I was going to say, given this is an item on the agenda, I was going to follow the gentleman's lovely suggestion and raise a motion that would instruct the officers to engage with local cycling groups, if you're willing to help us in touch with them, to build that user case to demonstrate there is a pull and a need for it, so that if, should as a future time the council decide to part or fund this, we know there is a use case for it, and we don't end up with a white elephant.
That's fine. I'm happy to do that. And if you give me a contact, then I'll put up yourself. You're volunteering.
I'm happy to support the clerk, but yeah.
Do you want to read that back?
I can summarise it more concisely.
If you use the office email, that would be fine. 'Cause-
Just send it to you. And
Well, it's office@Filton Council.
Oh, okay.
My name, because I'm going to.
Do you want to summarise?
Yes, I will.
I've got a second more ready for it.
Yeah. The officers instructed to work with, I've forgotten your name,
it's all right.
engage with local cycling groups to build a use case for a potentially improved cycle speedway, or refurbished cycle speedway.
No, I just want to add in something about wheelchair.
Yeah.
He's making that word, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Well, I think
can't be added, and wheelchair, and
Yeah, this week.
Add
The
to
whole
that.
system.
I think Alex used the term circuit speedway, but I think
sorry?
Yeah.
with respect, he means facility, multi-use short track.
Yes, yes.
That's the-
Apologies.
That's the term.
But very quickly, because I'm going to take it to the vote.
I was just going to say, could we expand that to say engage with, because perhaps we should be also asking primary schools about whether they would use it.
Local stakeholders then.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what's been very successful.
Any
And
project that's
the- if anybody wants to look at it, there's a Dunfermline in Scotland. Built there inside a local primary school, but is used regularly by schools all over the place, competitions and so forth. Has been very successful.
But Alex, we've got to repeat that, please, so we've got a full. Sorry,
Yes, the office to engage with local stakeholders to build a user case for the multi-surface, etc.
second point, John. I take it to vote, please, all in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much, thank you, Robert.
Okay, and just sorry, finally, I mean, on the funding side, because this obviously is key, do you feel there will be, I mean, it could be multi-funded, it could be funded by 2 or 3 different groups. In fact, there's some sense in that.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of it that we didn't talk about is who would run it. And you could have a friends of type structure.
Yeah.
I would suggest, friends of the track or
Yeah,
friends of Elm Park type thing. Could be charges up with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I've got my stuff back. Yeah. Okay. I'll leave you to it. Follow.
Our next presentation is Apex Marquees. That's all. Yeah. So, if we go, Jim, would you come forward?
Right, so we ran a festival. It happened. Having not been to Filton Festival before, because I don't live in Filton, we thought it was quite good. I know some people came down, some people didn't. Some people spent more time in the bar than they should have, and some people didn't.
Is that possible?
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, so we ran the festival, and I'm afraid we haven't been able to get back here since the festival because we've been away running other festivals, which is coming to an end now. So we're back into our kind of admin portion of the year for as a company. Has everyone seen the report that we sent in back in? So I won't spend ages reading it through because we can all read. Main things for us that we thought were great: Face. Wow. If anyone's here from Face or knows people from Face. We do this all over the country with other people. That's the best youth offering I've ever seen anywhere. I tested it out with one of my children, and he wrote a song. So that's never happened anywhere, and it's actually quite good. So that was fantastic, and also we got a lot of feedback from the public about that and the youth engagement, and the kids festival as well. The guys we brought in to do that, they're a bit overrun with the amount of children who came, but everyone seems to have a good time. Entertainment-wise, loads of good stuff about the music, loads of good stuff about the other random dancing and children's entertainers and things that went on. Bit of clash between the stages. They were closer together than we wanted them. So there was a bit of clash between the stages. If you were kind of sat in between them, you could hear two at the same time. So we planned to just move them apart a bit more to kind of deal with that. But on the whole, we thought the entertainment was good. Community groups went down a hit. We got loads more community groups than we thought we were going to get, and a really good kind of spread of things. So the classic car was really popular. The twinning group who did the crepes? They were a lot of people walking around the crepes. That was good. The craft side, we struggled to get craft traders. We couldn't get anybody in. We think that was because there was a load of craft traders at the Bradley Stoke Festival the same weekend. Yeah, but every craft trader contacted, we already booked for that, which was a bit of a shame, but we got what we could get. Food stalls, again, we struggled getting the food stalls because most people were booked by the time we were booking them. One that we got struggled with the amount of people. They were expecting a much smaller event and they struggled to cook it on time. The other one managed to cook lots of food. So that's just something to look at going forwards, and also a wider variety would be nice. Water was a big thing. A lot of people, it was a very nice day, which I've heard it's not always a nice day at Filton Festival. But yeah, so our suggestion would be to either put a water point in the park, and we've been told by the groundskeeper there's a water point somewhere out there, or if the council are going to put in a cycle velodrome, so you're probably putting like a water filling tap next to it. But either way, that was one of the big things that we got last year. If the numbers of people are the same, we need more toilets. The toilets just about coped, but there was a queue a few times, and no one likes to queue. Date for the festival, again, is something, the earlier it's set, the more chance there is to advertise. And then licensing, whether it stays under a 10 license, which is 500 people. Security's estimate this time was there was 1,750 people on site at one time. So putting that through a 10 is fine. It's a council event. It's a free event. You can't predict how many people are at an event, therefore you can do it under a 10. The issue is if anything happens, if there's an incident, if you're under a 10, you don't have the protection, and it wouldn't be Apex, it would be the council because they're funding it. So, for instance, if someone had a heart attack, nothing to do with the festival, there was just someone going through the festival, had a heart attack, our medics would obviously treat the heart attack, call an ambulance to get them in. There'd then be an instant report from the ambulance service about, oh, this person was there, the ambulance came in, there was a management team who got the ambulance in on time. The ambulance team has said there's more than 500 people there, what was this covered by? And all of a sudden, there's questions get asked and stuff. So it's just looking at whether we apply for a permanent license for that site. So whether, I assume it would be the council would have to apply for a license for Elm Park, and then any event that goes to Elm Park is under that license. So that's just something to bear in mind. Other than that, though, we thought the festival was good. We got some really good feedback. We got some bad feedback, which is good because bad feedback tells us what to do better. Yeah, has anyone got any questions about this year or things?
I've got some comments which people passed on to me who was at the festival.
Yep.
Some people said they thought the food was a little bit over the top price-wise.
Oh, price? Okay.
Some people said that, not everyone.
Yeah.
Quite jabby. The beer was, I believe the beer was okay, but me personally, I think there should be a bit more choice. We had like 1 hour, 1 cider, and 1 no, I think was all what was offered. Someone did come back and say about the band, they liked it, but they thought the Filton brass band went on rather too long, got a bit boring.
Okay.
I actually know 5 people turned up, and the brass band went neglect, they just said, this is like not used for a film festival, we normally have like upbeat bands that go on 45 minutes and they swap over and something more atmospherish as such. But they did say a lot of people about the last band was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was the best one. I think someone said the second band sounded like they did to a few more of those.
Yeah, we tried to put a mix of everything
Yeah.
on, but again, we were struggling with
But
what we could
that
get.
was quite a lot of comeback, quite a few Redlands events, and like, whatever, we've got the same team that we've already had.
Yeah.
Upbeat bands and stuff.
Yeah, we did contact everyone who played the year before
Yeah.
because the year before had been such a washout with the weather,
Yeah.
and 90% of them weren't free.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, I did give some names across myself personally, which I knew some bands would be around and they will. But toilets was excellent.
Yeah.
Apart from what you always said, I think we need a few more.
Yeah.
But the major one was, I think, I found, I don't know, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I think, the water ran out in the taps, so there's no water.
Yeah.
We were there, and some of the guys were like, what have we got? So yeah, we had a problem with water. You couldn't wash your hands.
Yeah.
That was a lot of things. No water, so done. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I would like to see, and we've always done it when we've done it. I know they're going on about that, but when we went on Film Festival, on the 5th, we've actually had, you normally use Bristol ambulance, and we've an actual ambulance with paramedics on site. I think last year we did, which obviously, but I think this year, yeah, I mean, that was one thing that we all sort of, we've always had an ambulance.
Yeah, we contacted Bristol Ambulance, they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, given there's a few of them that can do it, but if we get an ambulance on site, it would be better. So
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We tried to get an ambulance in as a feature as such, so you couldn't engage with the ambulance crew rather than as a medical provision.
Yeah, we actually had one in medical vision, we were just here, and we know for a fact that that's been really useful.
Yeah, there's a calculation for what you've got to have events like. So there's something called the Purple Guide that gives you.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's what rules have, it's
Yeah.
just cost, but that's what rules required normally.
Yeah, so we didn't have an ambulance. We had a medical transport vehicle, we call it. So it's like a step down from that. But yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, all
What's
that's taken.
happened before, I think we recommended. Did you tell us? So,
The feedback, just a little bit of feedback. I that there should have been more supervision in the car park, that's.
Yeah.
A detail, it was a little bit dangerous for children. You know, it could have done with more supervision. And also with the stages, if they were further apart, could the volume be turned up? Because I thought the volume was a bit low of the bands, and I love the volume, by the way.
On the main stage,
I don't know which one was the main stage.
the one with the brass band on.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
suppose. I thought, not the brass one was okay, but the other band, I couldn't hear it then.
How close?
Loud enough.
How close were you to the stage?
Oh, sitting in front of me.
Oh, okay. Almost certainly in that case. So with the layout we had this year, the main stage kind of needs to stay where it is.
Yeah.
But the second stage could be pulled right up to the top of the hill, and then perhaps turn the bar and put them in between them, because that would act as a sound barrier. That was our thoughts on it. And we spent a bit of time on site kind of walking around when it was going on, going, if this was, because it was our first year, so it's kind of a question of, but yeah, our idea was to split them up and put the things in between them. That way they both got a bit of a sound block, and then we could turn things up.
I thought you did a really good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I went down and had a bunch of friends who came down as well. We had a fantastic time, adults and kids.
Yeah.
Great feedback on the magician down the
Down the
hat.
hat,
Yeah, so he got a lot of maybe more appreciation from the parents with the slide.
He's very insistent. He's
Yeah.
not a children's entertainer.
Yeah. The question what you said about the the 2 stages.
Yeah.
It may just be a question of timing, because there was times when things were happening on both, whereas I know it was scheduled to have one going, then the other going.
Yeah,
So it might
we
just
plan
be-
to do what they call flip-flop, so
Yeah.
it'd be that stage is on, and then that stage is on, so while they're changing over and setting up, there's
Yeah.
always something on.
That seems to get lost half
But-
the day.
Community acts are fantastically good at turning up on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they did get lost.
Otherwise, yeah, obviously you covered the food.
Yeah.
I didn't have any complaints about the bar. I mean, we aren't a beer festival, so we don't want to be offering a huge great supply, but adding 1 or 2 more.
Yeah,
would be a nice touch.
I wasn't drinking, so I didn't know. First festival I've been to, not
And I
drunk,
guess the only question is around that license cost and how much that is as a step up from the 10.
but virtually nothing.
So
You're talking hundreds of pounds, and that's and the way. I mean, I don't know how it works with the council getting a license. I'd have to look into that, but because the council gives the licenses, I think. So whether it's Filton Council or South Gloss,
it'll
or
be South Gloss.
yeah, but essentially, so I've got a property down in Verwood, and we've run events on that where we've always done them under a 10. The council came to us and said, look, you put 5 10s on a year, you're better off having a premises license. So what that involved was someone being the designated premises supervisor. They've got to be a personal license holder. So I think that was £75 for a course. I'm sure there's someone in the council who's got a license. And then it was fill in this paperwork, pay £120. Here you are. And then we get a license, and that gives you the ability to run X number of events a year, whatever you put on there. So we put down 10 events a year because we only wanted to run 5.
Yeah.
You do that, then all you have to do is submit a event management plan to the council 12 weeks before your event, saying this is what we're doing when we're doing it. And they go, okay. You don't put in, but also, I wouldn't say to put in the alcohol license. I would say to put it in as an events license for live music events, sporting events, cinema events, theatre events, all of which are covered by licensing. I wouldn't put in the alcohol license because the council, I wouldn't have thought, would want to be responsible for the alcohol side of sales. The alcohol, I would still say do under a 10, whichever the bar company is for each event. They provide their own, they do their own 10, then they are responsible for that side. So you just get a license for Elm Park for events of any nature. And that means if something comes along and someone says, I want to run a silent cinema event in Elm Park, I want to bring in a screen and do that, you can say, yeah, okay. Or a cycling event showing films about cycling, anything like that. But it's a very small cost. And then once it's done, it's a one-off cost. So over the course of 5 years, you save your 10 fee. But yeah, I can find more information about it anyway.
So just the history behind that was when we went for when the new licensing act came in, we had to put the perimeter on which areas were going to be licensed.
Yeah.
We purposely didn't do the field because the advice at the time was around the fact we had a lot of youths hanging out in the field and drinking and things like that.
Yeah.
Not at events, but
Yeah, just generally.
just generally
Yeah.
during the summer. And then our license would be at risk because it was within our permitted drinking.
That's a good
How
point.
we would manage it.
I mean,
When they were under 18.
I'm not an expert on licensing.
Yeah, that's the only reason we didn't.
Yeah,
The whole
so-
area was licensed, but just not the field.
Maybe we take advice from South Gloucester Council on
Yeah.
what the best, basically what they recommend, I'd say, and whatever they recommend, I would suggest we do then.
Can I propose we investigate that
Yeah.
before it comes to a panic? So,
Yes, we'll just extend our boundary because we've already got it. Yeah.
but-
Yeah, it's just finding out whether, because obviously, like say, if the council are then liable, if that's a licensed premises and someone's drinking on it, that's not going to work as a, or whether the other thing you could do, because an event I've just run owns a field in Bromyard that used to belong to the grammar school and is left in trust to an event. They have a permanent license, but only for 4 days a year. So maybe that's the other option, is that
Yeah.
you do an individual but permanent license for each event. But yeah, we'll ask licensing and find out, I guess.
That's what we're looking into.
One last question.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why the bounds or whatever is back so it can be at the top of the field?
What, flip the whole thing round?
Yeah.
We just assumed everyone would be coming in from the car parking end, and rather than walking past the back of the stage.
It's
Do
just
that.
It was just normal, that's what's normally been like.
Yeah, and the other reason is if, with the directional speaker system we use,
Yeah.
the line array, if you're pointing that down the hill, if you put something in the middle, it will go over the top of it again.
Okay, it's just
Um,
because, as I said, the people around the bar area can hear the bands. sometimes like that, maybe because the other stage was closed as well.
So one year we had it facing up like you did,
Yeah.
and it was a really windy day, so obviously.
Yeah.
Stand against the wind, but that was the
I
only
mean,
difference.
there's no right or wrong is the answer. It's that was what I did based on walking around the park and going, that's where I put it. I'm more than happy to experiment with it. I think putting the bar in, I'd still say put the main stage where it was, because then the speakers aren't going down the hill, because then they'll carry right down the hill and straight into the houses. And what you'll probably find is it's quieter at the front of the stage and louder in the houses at the bottom of Elm Park, just because of the weird way sound works. But yeah, try and break it up with the bar in the middle. Yeah. We could put a little bar in front of the main stage for you as well, if you wish. 5 ales.
Like, I'm serious, people did say there wasn't a massive selection. I think that's probably because we've always done the bar ourselves, and there's always been like loads of offer, different types.
Yeah, I think there was more of a cider selection certainly at the start of the day, which immediately went because they weren't prepared for that many people drinking cider. I had tried to explain what Bristol's like. Yeah, but they've also got hour by hour data of exactly what they sold and where they sold it, which means we can look at next year and go, oh, okay, yeah.
Sometimes the more variety you have, the more waste you've got, the more popular drink.
Yeah, and that's it. Is if you, I suppose there's a fine balance between the kind of commercial side of we want to make as much money as possible as a bar company and do this, and also we also want to offer the best we can and not waste as much. But yeah, I'll investigate.
Richard, any questions?
Nothing from me. Yeah.
Sorry, Lee.
I just want to say, first of all, to say I attended, really enjoyed myself, great time. I think we were very lucky with the weather. So we don't know how well the provision for wet weather, but there was more than we had previously. So that's
Yeah, so we did, obviously, one of the key things was after the previous year and everything we'd heard was undercover. We also had a provisional marquee that we didn't put up, which was going to go between the two stages.
Right.
If the weather forecast was bad, we were just going to put a huge marquee right across that area, essentially where all the tables and chairs were. Which, if it's sunny, there's no point putting it up because it's just going to be, it's going to ruin the atmosphere. But if it's wet, it's there. We can just go. So everything becomes undercover then.
So you mentioned the number of craft stalls and other performers were already booked by the time that we went out looking for them. When do you think we should be actually?
Now, if you can.
So we'll arrange a rear day as soon as possible.
Yeah, so obviously we're an events company. Our season literally finishes next week. And then everybody who works in events and stuff all go, right, it's the winter, let's start organising everything because we can't do anything in the summer because we're busy working. And so, yeah, this is when people start emailing out, getting booked up.
Other thing regarding the bar, could we look into having reusable glasses and things like that?
They should have been.
I can't remember.
They should have, because they got their own dishwashers. They've got some solid plastic glasses.
Do we have solid glasses?
Yeah.
I obviously can't remember.
Sorry, Julie.
I was asking about having reusable glasses, but I
Can you remember?
I can't
Did you have too many?
remember.
We picked up loads of
Too many
reusable
glasses
ones.
then.
Yeah.
Good, that's great. Thank you. Let's do that again then.
Yeah,
Sunday is.
because I'm not sure you're allowed disposables now.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think they've been banned. I think.
Because I know I brought my own glass along, but they didn't want to use that for me. I had a metal
That's not what I know.
one, but I believe that was something to do with lighting things saying that they couldn't.
I think it's most festival is there. See if there's one.
Well, that's, I was wondering, that we look into,
Sorry, Dan.
Can we put on next month's agenda, please, Leslie, to discuss the date and get it out for tender?
Good, actually, do it tonight.
We'll get it in. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it this, we'll try and get a date tonight if possible. Because then we can, then it will have to go out to tender as well, as always.
We'll have to discuss the amount of those.
So, but the date, I'll just check to Leslie, would be the second Sunday of July, which is the 13th of July.
That's historically when it always was, but we moved it the last couple of years, haven't we?
And it didn't clash, the only thing it clashed with was Gay Pride, but it didn't clash with any of the areas like here, Blue Festival, so all the stores and stuff like that would be practically available.
And Saturday rather than Sunday.
It's a Sunday.
Sunday, sorry.
Yeah, it's
14th.
back on Sunday, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm just going back to
Yeah,
the
that's
history.
That has gone. So I'm going to propose that actually, that we go for Sunday, 3rd of July.
I thought the reason we chose the date that we had this year was to make sure that we were in school term time, to ensure that we would have plenty of families turning out, as opposed to all of a sudden you hit school holidays and you see how the population.
13th,
It
13th.
is school time.
Still, it is, okay.
So,
It is school time.
late
Late.
school time.
The
Okay.
reason we moved it previously is people didn't want to get up for school, but they parents were drinking on Sunday.
Yeah.
Moved it into school holidays.
Okay, I was just going to put that, because obviously whoever has the next contract is going to want to look in things from outside the way they were struggling, A, because we left it a bit late last time, which we seem to do, I mean, I've been here since 2000, and we always seem to leave it to January to start talking about it, so this is a good time to get things, and you get the tenders in, get those in within a month, so that'll be quick, and we can get them.
I'd even say if
The
you
other ones are.
put down for next year, the first meeting after the festival next year,
Yeah.
decide the date straight away. Because if say for instance you find, regardless of who runs the festival year on year, if you find that there's an incredible food trader, say someone turns up and just makes the most incredible, let's say, vegan burgers,
Yeah.
and also has a selection of 20 ales they sell out the back of their truck, and they're just the perfect fit, they're going to get snapped up by someone else. Because all it takes is another person like me to see them at the festival and go, well, they're good.
Yeah.
What are you doing this time next year for my event? So if you've got that date set, and you can even set it before this year's festival, if you get to this year's festival and you already have next year's festival date, you can advertise that at the festival. So while you've got all the people on site who come to your festival, you can say, oh, by the way, next year's event is this weekend, stick it in your diary, just as a thought. But
That makes sense.
yeah, and all the other things that it could clash with will also, all the big events will already have their dates out by the time it gets to this year. So yeah, it's just worth thinking about for this year.
It would just be worth, we could say 13th of July for Christmas, we need to check the factory of Bradley Stoke development. They're not normally.
Bradley Stoke's in June.
Pardon?
Bradley Stoke's in June.
Bradley's.
Yeah, normally
in June.
first, second week of June, isn't it?
Charlton Hayes Fashion was last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
We moved it a week last year. You do it second. You quite. Yeah, so we'll make that an agenda item for next time.
Any more questions?
We can do it tonight.
You can do it, so I can just down check anything else is on
We
the.
can do this provisional.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm provisionally stating the second Sunday of July, which is the 13th of July, as long as there's no clashes with any others that will clash with us in the area. So get set, I'm speaking proposing that, maybe a second go. Alan? So, okay, take a vote on that then. Show of hands in favour. Those against? Those abstaining? That's carried. Let's bring it back to the next meeting to clarify. Next, full council or finance? After you whichever one you bring it back to. Finance would be best. Yeah, finance would be best, yeah. So bring it back to finance next.
2 weeks' time.
2 weeks. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Yeah, really good. Okay, public participation, we have no public as such. I've been asked by a member of the public to ask the question of South Gloss councillor. This is back to the road once again, mate. Is there any reason why South Gloss can't give the information of the road to Filton Voice? Because people are saying we don't see it anywhere. I believe it goes to the Evening Post as opposed to what they're called these days. Because they put it in there, I don't know if it's any rules, regulations, but I've had a few people come to me and say, well, we don't buy the Post. Because I said to my things in the Post, but we don't buy it. We get a Filton Voice, which is free for our box, and why can't you put in there? It's a local map, it's a local, it's a local, sorry, man, you know what I mean? It's a local newspaper thing, so, magazine, can we get it in there? It probably may cost, I don't know, but can we do something like that? And the local people will see it, and it will cut a lot of the problems. I was going to use another word, but, you know, and I get, I mean, I go to the club, down to the club, and I get it. Get rid of things. Like I said last time I was in there, I just got all about the roadworks. And it was quite funny, because after, the next couple of days, the roadworks disappeared. So I went back and said, see what happens when you complain? But yeah, is there any reason why we couldn't do that, Alex?
No, the road, I don't see, the roadworks are publicly announced and made available.
Yeah, it is I mean, I can give you a bit of background about this if you're not too bored by it. This is a massive national debate because what basically happens is that public notices of all kinds, so licensing, roadworks, all sorts of things, they have to be put out into the public domain. So what has happened traditionally is that they would use the local paper, for want of a better word. But what's actually happening now is that they're using things like the Western Daily Press. So you do have a situation where roadworks in Filton could be being read by somebody in Devon, but the Western Daily Press probably sells about 50 copies in Filton. And this is a big national debate because local publishers like ours don't get access to them, and they just won't publish them in our publications, and nobody really knows why. I think it's easy for the council just to go to your Western Daily Press, and I don't know this sounds like I'm, begging for people to do this, but it is actually a big national debate at the moment as to why public notices don't go into the areas where the thing actually happens.
I think everything's pinged around electronically, isn't it? And we just don't actually
Yeah,
get it.
it is frustrating. I mean,
We
why?
always get the notifications, and Adam tends to put it on news and views anything.
I was going to suggest that probably one of a more straightforward way perhaps to do it would be when it comes into the town council, if we then make it aware of it.
Yeah,
and then
I mean, it would be
go
good.
to the next issue.
I think I did get the feeling that that double roadwork did seem to take people by surprise a bit.
Yeah, I think. And it has prompted a discussion on how we do the comms for roadworks, because again, it has been announced, but obviously if people are feeling surprised, then are the right channels being utilised?
Yeah, I mean, there is a platform where you can see all the roadworks, but I mean it feels a bit lazy just to assume that people will go and look at that.
And even if you put it in voice after people in the traffic or people commuting to somewhere else and not walking.
Well, that is true. That is true.
But there's been a large and heated discussion on various local points.
Yeah. Dan?
The other part of that question is, I know because I worked in the field, is that half the time they're waiting for concrete to cure or something like that, and there's nobody working. That is obviously the biggest bugbear of someone sitting in traffic and seeing no workers. Some companies do put signs up saying, what we're relaying this much cable, and then they put a sign up to say what's in progress. Because as you're sitting in traffic, having a sign telling you it's going to take 2 weeks for the concrete to cure before we can do the next bit, sorry for the delay. People go, oh, well, that's annoying, but there's not really anything else they can do. Having that little bit of information on the sign as you're entering the roadworks just nips so much of the stress in the bud.
To be fair, it was one of the questions we did feel quite a lot, and officers did investigate and check, and the feedback we was often given were if we add more people, we're not actually going to make anything any faster. Where you don't see people, things are still happening. So yeah, that's a useful piece of feedback to take on board. I'll pass it back to whoever deals with the contractors.
Next one is the MOD footpath, and then that's closed for a while.
So we can get the information, you can have this rich, yeah?
Yeah, and that was good.
And if there's any check, if you could also try and find out why about it. I mean, obviously Adam knows, so perhaps we can get Adam's opinion as well.
Well, yeah, I guess these things are scheduled. I mean, I don't know when they're scheduled, but they must be scheduled a fair bit in advance. So, yeah.
So between you, Adam, and
Yeah.
Town Clerk, we get.
It's where you draw that line, 'cause they've been through those days, but it's all quite often like magnets or somehow.
You might get the whole South Glass sent to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Fascinating. Yeah,
But at least then people can see it and know what's going on.
no, that's absolutely.
Anything else? Anything else in the public?
I wanted to just ask one about, because I noticed it in my email a couple of days ago. Whatever happened with the street cleaner? Did that happen, or is it?
Yeah, we have a street cleaner, he was employed in, 1st of July, I think he actually started on his feet. So yeah, he's doing a really good job.
How does it work in that? Does he go to trouble spots, or does he just?
Yeah, he's got various, he's got little plans for the zones, different days of the week that he goes to, and then when he finds them, because he's still learning, so if he finds it, there's certain areas that are more troublesome, then he'll do them twice.
Because I just wondered whether if people knew that and they had a problem, could they say, can you come to us, please? Is that?
Well,
so-
they could, but it's sort of,
Is it? I just wondered what the plan was
yeah, no,
for
we
it
have
to
been
work.
talking about it before, we've just been letting him find his feet for a few months, just so we can.
I was just going to say that the aim, hopefully amongst the council, is that a portal or something is put in place to allow members of the public to highlight troubles
To
with
report
shops.
something,
The aim is to, as Leslie's saying, let him find his feet and how he wants to structure Filton on a regular basis, and then making sure that those things are coming to him are triaged and that he's not personally bombarded.
No.
So how we manage that, but there is a hope that we can start to take in feedback from the public as well.
Okay.
And he is sort of low level, so he can't be doing with, like, loads of floating and things like that,
Right.
which is what we'll get. I'm worried about things floating.
Just wonder if we, at some point, we can go to the boys and kind of say, all of our cleaners collected 70 bags of crisp packets or whatever, and just share a big news story on that one. Because obviously it had been out there that one was being hired and.
Been protecting him a little bit, because he's
Yeah.
new employee, and he's not as tough as us that are used to sort of that criticism.
I know, fair enough.
As soon as
So,
you put something out there, everyone's going to go, oh, he's.
Yeah, he's very vocal as well.
That's how we manage that. We're looking after it.
Well, hopefully it gets over that we have one, because I think people should know. I mean, it was a main demand of their taxpayers' money. We seem to, as a council, take a lot, or councillors anyway, mainly, take a lot of grief in that you're not doing this, not doing that, and I think it's a good news story to let people know that's what you requested. You've done that. People know that. That would just don't keep bad news out.
He's enjoying the job, and he said he gets a lot of good feedback when he's walking around.
That's
Other
what I'm
people
saying.
think he's,
But we think we should.
come out of prison and doing that.
Well, no, that, so,
Payback,
payback.
yeah.
So we definitely should get something out of it to tell the people like, yeah, it's what they
I
requested.
don't think he wants his name and his face all over it.
Well, no, not, but a little bit since the town councils now, what you requested and what you asked. Because that's what the top of the list is, for the taxpayers' money when I asked them. And it'd be nice to have a good story. Julie?
Presumably he's wearing high vis when he's doing his job. Is it branded to say? So
That says payback on that.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because that would make it obvious, you know, but I know when I do volunteering and stuff, if you're wearing high vis,
You wear
people
payback,
assume that you're
Yeah, that's
doing
right.
community service,
That's what this is.
or mandated community service. Okay, rather than volunteering. But it,
I would.
Is he reporting to you the kind of rubbish he's finding? Is it drug related? Is it just general rubbish?
It's absolutely,
And
there's
exactly,
not one
and
set.
exactly where is it being found? So are we able to monitor that, and then we can direct maybe Seth Gloss a little bit better to actually go and get the rubbish, get it sorted?
He liaises with them as well, because there was one instance when he was walking down Station Road and the South Cross man and his 13 were coming up. So they do sort of, yeah, had a conversation about who's in what area when.
But I just think, is he happy, or would he be happy to actually just give us a brief report? a
Yeah, no,
monthly
I've asked him
thing?
for that, yeah,
He's doing that.
Julie?
just linked to that, we were told that South Gloss Street Care team were going to be in and around Filton in September. And so I asked local residents if they had any areas that they felt needed attention. Forwarded a very long list to you, I know.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, I have been asked, you know, when are these places going to get looked at? So if we have any feedback about that? Are they actually doing work at the moment? Because there's seem to be a lot of overgrown bushes and things like that that are making footpaths inaccessible to people, as well as rubbish as well.
Anything else on that? Right, thank you very much, everyone. Moving on from public. So group the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of July, 2024, it's pages 4 and 5. Quick look, just make sure we're okay.
Indeed, it's good, isn't it? Just say casual vacancy has been advertised as of this week, vacancy of council.
Everyone's happy with that? Can I have a proposal and secretary to accept those?
What about the reps on the outside bodies?
That's on the agenda.
That's on the agenda.
Oh, is it?
Opposed? Have we accepted?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. No, thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Right. Anything arising from those minutes?
Judy, did you want to say about what's happened to the meeting?
Oh, yes, can do, yes, absolutely. So, at the July meeting, there were, residents from Elm Park came along, regarding their objection to development of number 19 Elm Park as an HMO. Subsequent to that, they actually were able to get in touch with the, executors of the estate, the person who had the house, and because they were aware as well that it wouldn't have been in line with the owner's wishes to have it as an HMO, they would have preferred the property to go to a family, so they've actually felt that's actually now going to happen. The developer is not proceeding with their purchase and their development.
That was all children's and users, those who didn't see, so there's a bit on there as well. That's good. Dan?
Having just proposed that we accept these, 90529, you have omitted the C from committees.
Omitted?
And omitted. Just a typo on there.
Omitted.
Sounds better. Any other comments? Moving along. Film and Beating, pages 6 and 7. This is for noting. I'm hoping some of you already read this. That's for noting. Cyclops Council Report tabled.
Did. Yes, apologies for not a written report, but some of my points have already been addressed otherwise, but I'll take a quick go through of what's been happening. So I'll start on an update on the investigation we're doing around HMOs. So the two areas we've been looking at are what we can do, not what we can do, but how do we consider the wider HMO position, so not just the 5+, but the 3 and the 4 beds, because they do make up a significant proportion of the HMO and development properties in Filton. So we've engaged with some Bristol councillors, because Bristol have just put in some additional licences. So we're looking at how they've done it, and I've also been put in touch with a couple of the Bristol officers who went through the process, so they could look to support South Gloss if they choose to go down the same path. So that is all positive. So we are looking at, can we replicate effectively what Bristol has done around additional licensing for 3 and 4 bed. We're also looking at how HMO licensing is enforced. So how do we visit properties, what conditions we currently have, and what conditions maybe we want to look at in future, and what conditions do other councils look at. And South Gloss has given its feedback to the National Planning Policy Framework. if I've got that acronym correctly, right way around. So South Gloss has fed back to that. That is a more strategic, less lower level, just looking at how land is allocated, how strategic planning applications go through, the affordable housing, the type of housing makeup that has to be in them. So not directly applicable to the challenges we've been facing, but South Gloss has fed back. There is a couple of planning investigations that have been referred. So I think Adam has fed one back on Filton garages, just a potential breach. So it's been acknowledged, and the planning enforcement team will investigate to see if anything has happened. And the same on 2 Branksome Drive. So the gentleman who came, I think, to one of the previous council meetings, highlighting that a property may be renting out rooms before it has put the planning condition or met its planning conditions, which would then allow it to rent that property out. So again, investigations ongoing at the moment, nothing either way. I just wanted to highlight they are being followed up. And the recently private housing team walked the back lanes around some of the HMO properties and rental properties in Filton. It was just a good opportunity to highlight the challenges that those properties face. So again, a lot of overgrown grass, a lot of fly tipping, vehicles that have been parked for a long period of time. It is private land, so the council's powers are limited, but the officers are now investigating what can we do. That may also feed into any discussion on future conditions on licensed properties to effectively balance those needs of local residents. There has been a local pest issue, so a local property that highlighted a potential pest problem. So we have just highlighted that to officers and asked them to speed up their investigation because the local resident was suffering from a pest infestation into their property. So it was just a prompt to officers to follow up, and they have done. So they have re-engaged, and I've asked them to follow back up with the resident who's been in touch with them. Roadworks, obviously some of the roadworks have started to reopen lanes on track with what officers have been telling us. Again, it's positive to see that they're moving to plan. Reminding again that the A38 works, the YTL development have until early November, at which point they need to have all works ceased because the build-up for Christmas starts. There was some work that had been planned on the flyover on the A38. That is now potentially being pushed back. Again, the reasons for that, there's a couple of reasons. One is taking into account local feedback, the impact on residents in the local area trying to get through. So bookending another piece of road working on would not have eased the issues. There's also potential savings to be made by condensing some of the work and grouping it together with other work. So I have asked them to keep us updated when those roadworks are being rearranged too. So once I have more information, we'll share it. Then just looking at other announcements. So there's incoming information on the planned introduction of parking charges. So there's some stakeholder engagement events happening over the next month. So once I know more, again, I'll bring it back to Town Council. Hopefully by next full council meeting, I'll have a better overview. The Wayfinder project is obviously continuing, and they're, I think, coming to the next council meeting, isn't it? Next full council. South Coast Wayfinder.
I think they're coming to
Finance, thank you. And then just last, to keep everyone looped in, the upcoming waste contract, which is being tendered, so that's for local residential waste collection. A company has been selected, and discussions are ongoing for their implementation. And a key piece of information that we have been recently made aware of, albeit a long way out, but does feed into upcoming changes, that there is a planned charge introduction in 2028 from central government to councils, not to individuals, on any waste sent to landfill or energy reclamation would incur a £100 charge per tonne. With the South Gloss's current residual waste that gets sent to those sources, that would cost the council almost £4 million per annum at current rates. Hence, is one of the reasons that residual waste collections have been considered to try and reduce that amount of waste, to minimise the impact to council budgets and impact to residents. And of course, it is beneficial to the environment to increase recycling rates. They have plateaued in recent years, and we are looking to increase them. And again, it's understandable where the government charges are coming from. Energy reclamation still produces pollution, because it is effectively burning waste. It does generate energy, but it does cause pollution through this. They're the key items. I'm happy to take any questions on either anything I've mentioned or if there's anything I've missed that you'd like to query.
Just on the updated waste collection, so is the soft plastics being rolled out with that new contract, or is that still under trial? Do you know?
I will double check because I can't confirm. I know there is an aim to do that, but I don't know anything concrete. So let me take that away and I'll get an answer.
Anyone else? Thank you, Alex. Sorry, did you like one ask me, Rich?
No, nothing to me.
Okay. Moving on then, reports, committees, working groups and town clerk. Draft finance committee minutes, planning committee September, national planning framework, schedule to go as far as that first. They should all be pronounced national, you should all know the days. And we're moving on. Schedule of fees 2024, pages 9 and 10.
Before you move on, national planning framework. Planning. We were asked to go away and look at it, which we've done. I've read through it. I know Alex has read through it.
Yeah.
In consultation with Alex and picking up on points that he's just made, if you could read the national planning policy that we've got a copy from.
Sorry?
Have you got a copy of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Basically what we'd like to do is to submit this to the national planning policy consultation, which is in line, I believe, with what South Gloss are trying to achieve, what Clare, Hazel Grove, RMP has already done in some form or other. So we would be submitting this to try and get it put on more of a formal footing, if we can.
I've got a couple. Dan, I've got Dan, Alex, who else have got?
I was just to second Alan's proposal that this document be submitted.
Alex?
The only clarity I was going to add is, as long as there's an appropriate place to put it in the consultation, I'm not sure if there is a complete AOB or any other comments. So I'm not sure how we'd attach it otherwise.
Yeah, I said, like a direct line, just, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to check that. If that is the case, in support, I just wanted to make sure we weren't attaching it to an entire random question and the council looked like it wasn't reading the questions. Fantastic.
And that's not very tonight, is it?
Yeah, it closes at 11:45 this evening, so it's got to go this evening.
Better get it back.
Don't go to it. When it's agreed, I'll just.
Any other questions? Okay, so it's been proposed, been seconded. Go, well, show of hands in favour, please.
Could you just say what we're voting on?
It's a bit bigger than you
Oh, yes.
Any against? Any abstentions? Moving on, thank you very much. Now on to schedules, please.
P9 is an audit requirement. We have a quick look at these. Once a year. The one that's specifically needs reviewing every year are the allotments. One talks about, do you think? We don't think there's any need.
There's no increase in the cost of it.
It's such a big increase last
Just wondering if we have heard anything from the Wessex Reserves. There was lots of, they were going to come and put us, so it says needs to be reviewed in 2022.
They have withdrawn their plans, haven't they?
They've withdrawn their planning,
Okay.
and they just want to renew the list as it stands, I think, but I need to double check that and certainly to see what it is.
And I'm happy to come again. It's a different gentleman, I think, this time.
So are they going to do anything with it, or
No.
are they? There's
Investment, the report.
leave where it is. Okay.
Any questions? Julian?
Top line community association, is that the fit centre?
It is, two
Um,
guineas,
Sorry?
2 guineas.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I don't know what the agreement is, but it seems to be totally at odds with everything that everyone else is paying. I can understand that they have a long lease, but
It's a 199-year lease and for 2 guineas. So we've been trying to get some legal advice as to whether we can obviously change the terms of the lease. We've not got any of that.
it does seem to be, from comments you get from the residents, it's very hard for people to actually book in the facilities. If it's supposed to be a community association, it should be available to the community.
But it would be interesting, and we'll go to Alex and John, it would be interesting to find out who signed the documents back in the day, to see which councillors, etc., who are involved in it. Who decided to sign it for 2 years and for 199 years lease.
Was that a reasonable fee?
Yeah, that's fine.
But
Which is
it-
okay.
So how long a term do they have remaining?
144.
Sorry?
144.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
The
sorry,
lease will
yeah,
outlast
sorry.
everyone in
Ah,
this
right,
room.
sorry.
It would be interesting to find out who did sign it, sorry, that's gone, but it would be
Can't
nice.
be relevant in there.
I would think
Yeah.
to find out,
A long time ago.
it would still be like, it would still be nice to find out who signed it, what
Well,
person
in case
signed
we
it.
didn't get
Give
on
them
conflict of interest.
£199.
It was a fantastic facility back then, it was all for the community,
Yeah.
so.
But we keep, that's what I'm saying, let's find out who it is, let's do some stuff, let's find out who signed it over. Because then it gives you can tell the public, well, actually, this is, I've done it. Would be interesting. I'm going to Alex, John, and Alan.
Question I just had, and it applies to things that aren't leased. We've not got any increases. Now, using the allotments as an example, one of the reasons you see big jumps in some of these fees is because the council doesn't increase them, and then suddenly is losing funds. Because it's not doing a planned increase, so you just get big spikes rather than a planned, controlled, manageable increase every year. Is there a question, should the council be looking at inflationary cost increases to its own cost to prevent big spikes, so that these are planned and manageable increases?
Well, with regard to the allotments, it's in the Local Government Act, there's really strict rules around increasing it because it was all come from the board and it's further in. But I mean, the other prices, yeah, we should be, there is an argument that they should be increased. Not costing us anything, and they're not costing us anymore, it's just the fact that.
And that's, yeah,
Trying hard at it, aren't they? People just-
no, that's fine. It's like, I'd say 2 things. If it's not costing the council anymore, I wouldn't be recommending we increase it. And again, even if it is, and the council wants to take a decision to keep those prices, at least the council has decided to take that decision. It's not just bumbled along, and the council is. So I don't know what action to suggest there to give us that information.
Our recommendations.
I would say we don't, if it's not costing us anything, then I would feel we should increase it. But there is a question around parity as to how much different people are paying. So if the tank club are paying £150 a year for that footprint, I don't really know the land at Shallow Road, but that's a lot less. And is it a smaller plot, and is it all relative, and what's the fairness around that?
John? as you
So two points, just to answer the question of is it costing us any more? It is costing us more because we will be employing people who will have wage increases, electricity will go up to keep our lights on, etc. Just to clarify that point. I do not want to open a can of worms. I would simply like to know how come Nutfield Grove are £15 and Station Road are 67. I'm sure there's a reason, just wondering. what it
Different
is.
size slots,
Right, cool, that's fine. Just
and they manage it themselves. Not
Brilliant.
really manage it all themselves.
Brilliant, just-
They don't have any skips or anything.
But if a member of the public was looking at this, they might go, yeah.
Yeah, they've taken all the money themselves and give it to us in bulk.
Brilliant, yeah. Yeah.
Picking up on the community association, which I know is a nice little bugbear for this council. Have we ever seen the original articles for the community centre?
The articles.
Yes, basically, the rules in which they were set up. under.
They were shared a couple of years ago.
And,
Built by the community for the community.
okay, have we been able to compare it to how they operate today?
We've tried every angle.
Can we look at it again? Because I know it's gone off the boil. And I think some of the reason for that was we wanted to make sure that this place was up and running and secure before we engaged in looking at the community centre, because we knew potentially we would be having to enter into legal costs to get it sorted. Are we now potentially in a position where we can bear those legal costs to actually go in and say, right, we've had enough. We're now going to make sure that we make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And if we can find any loophole whereby we believe they are not operating in line with the original article, then we challenge them and we either say you can either accept a vast increase in your rent or you change your management team.
Private family run business.
Might represent that.
Would you like to make that proposal?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
So for what Andrew said, we've got a second, I'm going to go to the vote.
Can I speak against the last question?
Yeah, of course, I'm sorry.
A couple of years ago, we did go through a lot of this with asking legal advice and going through. We spoke to the Charities Commission. They came back and they said, basically, it's small fry. We're not really going to be able to do anything on it. It's not worth our time. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if I said it that way. And the legal advice was, there's a contract and there's not, they didn't come back with any loopholes, unless I'm misremembering. But
They asked for some improvements and they tick boxes and made improvements, basically, their figures on time.
so the Charity Commission, the legal advice we took, as far as I know, came back with, there's nothing really that we can do. It's a lease and they haven't gone past it. So I'm feeling that should we really be wasting money getting the same legal advice as we got the last time, asking the same question and expecting a different answer? I don't see what we're gaining by doing that again.
Thank you. I will now go to the vote.
Can I just come back to that one?
Sorry. So we've had a proposal and a second. All in favour?
Can you state the proposal again? Okay.
I'll go ahead. Repeat the proposal. Yes,
They just vote to relook at the legality.
I wrote the challenge and how they want.
Yes, well, basically is to look at the legality, whether or not they are still in, actually following the articles that are originally conception would give them. And are they playing fair by the community, I would say. And every feedback we get, they are not playing fair by the community. They are running it as a private club, which it isn't. Anybody from Filton should be able to walk through those doors and join, and apparently they can't. So I think that could potentially be a legal challenge. If you're not able to walk through those doors, and unless there's some reason why, you're a mass murderer and they don't want you on the premises, then there's no reason why they should refuse your membership.
Right, so
Just continue on.
can we now go,
Sorry, tell
can we
me.
go to the vote, please? So vote proposer, the vote seconder. All in favour of the proposal, show of hands, please. Those against? Those abstaining? And that's carried. And we go to your hands. So, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Reps on outside bodies, I believe, has been circulated.
Can we just agree these charges? We didn't have to get that.
Oh, sorry. Oh, right. Right, can I propose it? I propose that we accept the charges. Can I second it? John, Alex, all in favour, show of hands, please. Carried unanimously. Sorry. Outside bodies, it's been circulated. Please just reply back to those if there's anyone you want to see, you want to come on. Or if you're on, you want to come off.
We've done this a few times now, and it's one of normally done in May.
Yeah, it's not done. We'll give you to, please do it by the, by finance, no. Please can you do it by the next 4 councils, they have a month to do it. If you don't hear anything from anyone, then that stays as it is.
Where is it?
They were circulated.
They were circulated.
Yeah, they were in last month's finance agenda pack, and I resubmitted them this week.
Oh, so that's finance.
Full council finance.
Consultation spreadsheet, page 12.
Sorry, just on that one, obviously Darryl was on an awful lot of committees and things there. So while it says current or previous members, there's a lot of holes.
Yeah,
Is
but
there
chair,
we need to fill.
if Darrell's on there as a chair, then there also has to be the chair to go on to it. I'm presuming that's what we'll. But if
Darryl
you
had more spare time, so he was on more than just
Yeah.
as chair.
but it's still just the same, you've been circulated, so please reply back by email. Okay, thank you. Moving on then. Final. Only got 11 minutes.
Yeah. I was thinking that.
Well, then public consultation spreadsheet, it should be the last one.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
page 11.
It's only got one.
Oh, it's page 11, right, sorry.
Oh, right.
That is that planning policy one that you've already.
That's the final post one, yeah. So we discussed that. Thank you very much then. I now close the meeting to an end.
25 to 9.
What's that?
Dinner in the door.
Yeah. No, it's finished. I've been missing them the whole lot. And so
Together?
no, the end goal will be not by 60th of Songs away from periods, and I go to Prague next. And I'm going to go back.
Yes, because we know what you mean by that, but we have to.
So that.
What was it?
Yeah, because obviously I wasn't. Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Carla sent us an email with the 3 objectives written in, is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it was my initial comments.
Apologies if I missed them on email.
No, I haven't sent it yet, because I'm sorry, I'll wait to speak to you.
But it broke the deadlock with the word.
I can't say reasonable.
But yeah, more about being specific.
Yeah, and that's what my comments have been, making them more specific, saying the biodiversity one, I struggle with, but yeah, I've sort of made them a little more specific. So yeah, if you could perhaps do the biodiversity one a little bit as well, because yeah, they're actually what we want to do rather than.
Can we make a change to this?
Yes.
Well, yes, we can, it depends what the change is.
Yeah.
So you're
That's
saying,
what happens when I live.
can we
First
mandate
house,
the,
yeah.
or for
Yeah.
motor license?
And they make it
And they'll come out and go, "Yeah, that's a South Wales license issue." Can we mandate that,
Yeah, so
it's 7.5%,
Yeah.
instead of 10%?
I might do that actually, I'll update that. is that Article 4 percentage, because that would be used
It's easy to modify, but I think on our initial calls, they said you were making mass in everyone's space.
Yeah.
To do that, but it's whether that includes licensing charge or that's the wording of the SPD.
I think it would have to be licensed, because otherwise there'd be no way of tracking that licensing, unless Filton wants to pay for it, and I don't think
I suppose you can charge a license. That's the question is when.
Yeah, and whether Filton has the authority to put a license on.
Yes. Or whether we can, but I guess on your side, internally,
Yes,
whether we can. whether
South Gloss
South
can
Gloss,
have an additional license, which would then get us all the data.
instead of being 5+, it's 4+.
Yeah.
Because 5+ already covers some small HMOs.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
they're separate from the license, so it's only just expanding that. I would say 4+ would be.
Usefully, if we did for that kind of density question, the first thing we have to do as part of the license is there needs to be a housing stock survey done. So that data, if South Gloss had it, we may be able to ask the access to it for and whether we have or not is a question mark, but
Census data, isn't it?
well, they might use census data, or they might get something to do. I don't know how South Gloss or Bristol. But yes, I might actually update that, just to put percentage in there, because I've done that with the parking, just said 0.5 and 0.
But that's, I think, we talked about, I think, 0.75, whether that's more appropriate for each of them.
Exactly. Yeah, and 0.3 or 0.25 for a student bedroom, for example. Yeah, so I think, there needs to be a little pointed, and that's why I think this was for Carla tried it out for us, just so we had it black in front of us. We could have a read, tweak it, and then she could pass that back to South Gloss, give them a week or two before our next. Yeah, we are.
It's because Carla usually, and